I think that we can all get behind giving peace a chance, and Bitcoin's our best chance at that peace, right? Okay, we have another amazing panel for you guys. So with Africa's youth wanting more and more independence and also connectivity to the world, Bitcoin is a beacon of hope that allows them to break their dependence on the West. So next, we're going to learn about the tools, programs, and grassroots efforts helping to turn the continent bright orange.
Up next, we have Africa, Independence Through Bitcoin, moderated by Renata Rodrigues, Head of Community and Marketing at FETI. Please give her a very warm welcome.
Hello, guys.
Hello.
It's such a pleasure to be here right now, guys. I just landed from Argentina, so I'm gonna try to be cautious with my excitement. But it's so nice to meet all the Bitcoin family together. I hope this love and caring that we share between us, we can send to the social media as well. A lot of people are needing this right now as well. And let's talk about my favorite topic, Africa. So we have here amazing people that are changing the continent. Maybe you guys can introduce yourselves.
Cool. My name is Kgothatso Ngako. I'm from South Africa, and I'm working on a project that is giving people without internet-connected devices the ability to send and receive Bitcoin.
How's it? My name is Hermann. I'm from South Africa. We are trying to build a Bitcoin beach-like community in Mossel Bay, which is a city that's about 4 hours east of Cape Town.
My name is Parah. I'm working on a project called BitNob that seeks to connect Africa to the world on a financial level using Bitcoin and the Lightning Network.
Hello. My name is Yamb Ntimba. I come from Cameroon, better known for football, but I'm an economist. And I'm economist and philosopher, and I'm thinking about how Bitcoin is just changing the shape of our societies and of the future.
I think it would be nice if you guys can explain a little bit more like about your project exactly, like what Manchkura does for the young Africa and the South Africa in general, and Kenya too, right?
Yeah, right. So basically at its core, Machanguru is interested in giving people with devices like these, which are not smartphones, right, which cannot download, install apps, no browser on it. They need to be able to send and receive Bitcoin if we really want to, bring Bitcoin to the world. And the primary reason is because only 30% of the African population have access to the internet. So how are you sending them Bitcoin? Yes, we usually say Bitcoin is the internet's native currency, but it's actually a digital technology which can work on any digital medium. And the medium is not the message. So as long as we can encode Bitcoin in a digital form, we can send it and receive it to anyone else in the world. And yeah, that is basically...
When the project started?
Yeah, the project started in May. There's been a lot of chatter in African Bitcoin Twitter, so a lot of Bitcoiners in Africa wanted to see a project like this. BitNob also has a tweet from earlier in May where he was like, can someone put... Bernard has a tweet where he was like, can someone put a lightning on USSD? And this is what the project is. Users get a lightning address, then they can send and receive Bitcoin via lightning and also on-chain as well. Yeah.
So basically, right now you guys are facilitating people to buy Bitcoin offline, basically.
Send and receive. We work together with on-ramps and off-ramps like BitNob and Esteco. So they focus on being an on-ramp and an off-ramp, and we focus on giving people a wallet, like a wallet of Satoshi, but obviously I can't use Wallet of Satoshi on this device. So this is Wallet of Satoshi on USSD, right? And yeah, then the user buys an Azteco voucher or goes to BitNob to get their Bitcoins and send it over to their Lightning address to spend and to send to their friends and family.
And I don't know if you can share to everyone. I hope you can. But you told me already the amount of people that you guys could help with the project. Are you allowed to share or not?
Could help or is helping?
So
currently the service has around 1,500 registered
That's
users. Right? And in the 9 countries it's deployed.
They deserve a clap, guys.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Just started in May, so
Yeah, well,
amazing.
thank you.
And Hermann, talk to us. I think Bitcoin Caz is super famous right now around, but there are some people here, they don't know about you guys. Can you explain where this idea came from, how everything started?
Yeah, I mean, the idea came from El Zonte in El Salvador, the Bitcoin Beach project. I came across that in 2019. I had an interview. It was actually the first interview that Michael Peterson did with Peter McCormack, and I heard this fantastic project, and I thought, well, that's something I could do, because I've been running this organization where we work with children from a very poor community. My wife and I co-founded the organization in 2010, and so I've been working in this community for more than a decade, and I've been heavily invested there. And because we've been trying to empower the youths there, it just made sense that, you know, introducing Bitcoin could be an extension of that empowerment. I'd been using Bitcoin myself for many years before that, for business purposes. You know, we've been sending and receiving payments from clients. Sometimes it's been the only way to receive payments, you know, particularly when the first, you know, when lots of sanctions all across the world, we deal with international tourists in our business. So Bitcoin has just made sense to me for a long time, but I've never, not until I came across Bitcoin Beach, did it sort of click that, you know, this could have a social impact as well. Like if you introduce people to Bitcoin, it can actually change the way they think. It's not just a payments technology, it's also like a sort of a psychological technology, if you want to call it that, because people start thinking about the future. And this is what I saw coming out of El Zonte, and I thought to myself, well, that'd be great for our project too. So.
And you guys just got a very cool car, right? Like to go around and educate people, right?
Yeah, we just got we bought an old Toyota Land Cruiser. It's a 1994 model. It's got 500,000 kilometers on the clock. But those things are indestructible. They go forever. So we're going to put another 500,000 kilometers on it. And we're going to drive as far as we can, and we're going to take Bitcoin education with us.
Yeah, this project for the Latin people here comes from the partnership with the La Bitcoineta. The idea is come reproduce the same educational idea that they've been doing. Amazing.
Yeah, we're very grateful for their support and help.
Bernard, BitNob, what have you guys been doing with Nigeria, man? Tell to us.
It used to be just Nigeria, but now it's Ghana, Kenya, and it will be a couple more African countries in a few weeks' time. I think, so to really understand what BitNob is trying to do and the problem we're trying to tackle is you sort of have to go back in time, right? Just a few years ago. So I got into Bitcoin sometime in 2013, right? And it was more or less just a speculative instrument around, right? So it was just whatever we could trade to make any extra money. But, you know, over time had to, not in the nicest of ways. So for me, I was a student in Ghana. I'm originally from Nigeria, and I had this ATM card that, I typically use in Ghana to, just for my stuff. So my school fees was in my Nigerian bank accounts, and basically the central bank says, hey, every Naira card abroad is like, you can't use it, you can't access your money abroad. So I had my school fees like in a Nigerian bank account, and I have the ATM card in Ghana, and I can't access the money. And I was confused, and this guy comes and says, "Oh, but you do Bitcoin stuff, like and you swap Bitcoin. Why don't you just swap it with someone in Ghana and, you know, pay? And you just, and I did it, and, you know, it was like a light bulb moment that this is bigger than, you know, just making whatever extra buck you could make. And I sort of started that as an informal kind of remittance service. So lots of Nigerian students in Ghana, a lot of workers, a lot of money moving between both countries, but the rails were just either non-existent or like expensive, you know, in cases where they exist. So it was more or less using a network, basically P2P networks on WhatsApp, on Telegram. Facebook is just like we're exchanging these currencies, and the money gets there, and, you know, whoever you do it for, it's like, oh, this is crazy, how did this happen? Was Bitcoin. And, you know, I did a lot of freelancing as well while I was in school. So I worked for, you know, agencies in the US, in Canada and whatnot. And, you know, some of those jobs had to like go for free because I couldn't really get paid. I couldn't open like a PayPal account. I didn't have a US account. You know, one time I tried someone I thought I trusted online to collect payments for me. I collected his PayPal. You know, the dude got the money, and I've never heard from the guy up to today, right? Like, I have these unanswered Facebook messages with the guy. Like, so these were like really challenging issues that, you know, I faced, right? And, you know, meeting other people, I discovered that, like, we can build a solution for this, right? Cross-border payments within the African continent are virtually non-existent. So if you wanted to move money from, say, Nigeria to Kenya through the traditional rails today, it has to go through New York, right, before it comes back to, and we're going to talk about it when we talk about African independence through Bitcoin, right? So remittance is really expensive today. You know, you're losing around, say, 8 to 14% in most cases, and that's a lot of money. Like, I mean, if a country like Nigeria does around 40-something billion US dollars every month, every year in remittances, and you have, say, 10% of that going to Western Union, like, it just doesn't make any sense. That's a lot of wealth that we're leaving on the table, right? And we're going to keep remaining poor like that. So the main thing for BitNub is, you know, looking at an economy, looking at a world that we say it's now like a global village. It's a global village in a lot of access to information and a lot of things, but when it comes to the money, we're still not global. So we want to make Africa global through Bitcoin.
So basically, you are building finally the Pan-Africa access, so you guys can talk between each other, right? Because Africa basically, I always say this because it surprised me, like, you guys already have the knowledge of digital money, right? You have M-Pesa, Orange, it's clear for you guys. But this communication between the countries, it doesn't exist. So you, through your company, trying to push this in the better way through Bitcoin, basically, right?
Yeah, especially the Lightning Network. So.
Yes. And it's amazing because also you guys added Lightning to the BitNub. Also have partnership with Strike, right? If you can expand this a little bit, like, for people to understand what comes with this.
Yeah, so I mean, currently in its current stage, it's not really like what you call like an official sort of partnership. It's more of a demonstration of the abilities of the Lightning Network. So if I'm sitting in, you know, somewhere in Lagos, Nigeria, and I have, you know, a cousin or an uncle in New York, could they possibly send me $1, right? Was it possible before without the Lightning Network? You know, probably not, right? And could they send that and it appears in a Nigerian bank account, you know, within minutes without the recipient knowing that Bitcoin was involved in the transaction? It probably couldn't be done before, right? Instant payments, are they big in Africa? Yes, mobile money is instant, like over 320 million, right? Bank transfers in Nigeria are instant. If you send me money using a bank transfer in Nigeria, like if it takes 30 seconds, I'm looking at you and like, dude, have you actually sent that money? Because it's instant, right? But we couldn't do that on a global scale, right? So we understand what it means to build real-time payment systems. We're used to it and stuff. So it's like Lightning Network sort of makes that
fits into that puzzle, right, and makes it a global thing for us. So yeah.
Amazing. Ntimba, so basically, you have a great overview of the Africa in general, but especially the Francophone Africa, right? And would it be amazing if you could explain how Bitcoin can help the Francophone Africa in terms of the local money that you guys have right now, the CFA, and to give freedom to you guys through the money for the financial freedom, but also it's even more than that, right? Like it's also political freedom as well.
Yes, and have you noticed that they have forgotten my name?
That's true.
The names are
Oh, it's the previous.
That's how Francophone Africa is generally.
In fact, we don't have anyone's name here. It's like the different names, right?
The situation of Africa is something very, very serious. The world should carefully listen to it. 1 people out of 5 in the world is now living in Africa, because Africa is 1.5 billion inhabitants, more than China. But the fiat environment have brought such suffering, so much suffering in Africa. And abroad, you people, most of the time, don't even know what's happening in Africa. Do you know that last year, 33% of the raw materials exported in the world came from Africa, because 100 billions were exported in the world and 33% came from Africa. If you take this 33%, that is 33 billion tons, and you affect just $1 to 1 kilogram, but we know that a kilogram of coffee costs more than that, Africa should have got from its export revenues $33,000 billion last year. It's almost it's 1.5 GDP of the USA, almost twice the GDP of the European Union. But listen, the GDP of Africa was only 6,700 billions. Where the money has gone. That's the problem of Africa, and that's the problem we have with fiat. But specifically in the countries where people speak French, and I come from Cameroon, and use the CFA francs, the situation is really worse than that. The CFA franc is not a currency. It is a treasury bond of France. So you have 15 countries in Africa that don't have national currency. They use treasury bonds of France, and France can decide with who they trade, what they buy, if they can sell anything. France decide what is the content of the development of these countries. And many people around the world don't know what's happening there. So we don't even know what is a central bank, because we don't have a national currency. And people are struggling to stop this. But believe me, since 1960, 23 African presidents have been assassinated because they wanted to stop this. 23. I don't know if you were aware of this. So what I am trying to do as a philosopher and an economist is to tell Africans, since something like 20 years now, and believe me, I'm only in my 40s, since something like 20 years now, to stop this and to find a way to get out of the CFA francs. And then comes Bitcoin. Because of this, you have seen, we have talked so much about Bitcoin in Africa, and if you go, you search YouTube or Facebook, you just write Ntimba, you will find so many videos, so many things, writings talking about this. And I just published a book in which I talk a lot about this. We think that right now, the new paradigm, Bitcoin is the solution. Because what Bitcoin will do, Bitcoin will help us secure our public funds. If you use the countries that use CFA francs in Africa, they put, France take 50% of their revenue of their exportations, 50% in an operating account, 15% more in a leveling account, and you have fees and taxes that some years may give to France 85% of all our export revenues. Can you believe that there is a country in the world that is taking 85% of the revenues, the income, exportations of 15 other countries? And when you go to any faculty of economy, they tell you that Africa accounts for only 2% of the world trade. But you have 15%, you have 15 countries that are unknown in international trade because they don't have a national currency. So we are still struggling with colonial issues, and we know and we have seen that Bitcoin is the solution. And there is one African country, Central African Republic, a small country of 6 million inhabitants. It is said that it's the poorest country in the world. They have adopted Bitcoin as legal tender since April this year. And I went there and told them that this is something very interesting. I was invited by the government because they have seen that I was talking about since then. And I told them, keep being a Bitcoin country, because this will change what a state is. Because if they want Bitcoin to work, they will change the state into a Bitcoiner state. Exit central banks, exit banks, exit this centralized system. And the state will become just a Bitcoiner like you, like me, like everybody. And they will pour the Bitcoins in the national economy through salaries, through state orders of this and that, and through everything that the state will buy. That's how they will pour Bitcoin into the state. And I worked with Galloy and submitted to them a wallet project. And I'm very happy to hear what you said, because what we told them is that mobile money, in Africa you have almost 1 billion people subscribing, 1 billion subscribers in mobile telephone. And 800 million people are subscribers of mobile money. And mobile money use the USSD layer and don't use internet. By the time people uses this, then they can, if you put Bitcoin on this, and we have worked on that, I'm very happy that it's already done. We have worked on that, and we know that we can transact with Bitcoin on USSD layer, not necessarily on internet. So we are waiting the reply of the Central African Republic government to deploy, because we take only 3 months. With this, when these countries will export, they will ask to be paid in Bitcoins. And then the state will secure the whole export revenues, and nothing will go to the Treasury of France, not the Central Bank of France. It is the Ministry of Finance of France that is managing these export revenues. So nothing will go there, and these countries will have an opportunity to invest. Let me give one illustration before someone else can take the floor. If you take a country like Mali, last year they exported 64 tons of gold. 64 tons of gold at the current price of gold, it's 5 billion euros. But Mali maybe have seen only 750 million euros. Only 750 million euros. And the whole budget of the state of Mali this year is only 3 billion euros. So imagine that the state of Mali had got the total export revenues. They would have their 3 billions plus 5 other billions. You see the investment capacities of these countries that are only taken away by France. So for me, there is a solution we have in Africa right now, and I've come here to learn more about Bitcoins, but also to request from you the support so that we can gain this independence, because People are starving in Africa. As I know that that's all you see on your TVs. And this is the reason why people are starving in Africa. It's not because people don't work. It is not because we don't have resources.
So one of my favorite singers is from Nigeria. And one day they asked him, oh, why now all the music, pop music, have the bass of Nigerian songs? Yes. And he said, and he answered something interesting, which was, when everything is screwed, everything is wrong, you go to your mom, you go to your roots. And it's interesting because right now I'm seeing a lot of companies, a lot of the eyes from the Western going to Africa right now, right? Like, and I've been telling this since 3 years ago, like I'm seeing the real revolution of Bitcoin. It's coming from the developing countries from bottom up. It's not from Western. And I'm curious to see your views around this, like what Africa can teach to the Western in terms of Bitcoin and finance in general.
I like to reference what was said about the CFA. Right? A few months ago, I looked at the CFA and I realized it's a stable coin. Right? And, you know, it gives the people using it a stable currency, a stable price, stable purchasing power. You can look at the historic chart. It's been stable. But then you hear everything he just said, and you're like, wait, why does that stable coin not give its people economic freedom, right? And then you can compare countries that use a CFA with countries that have had a more volatile currency, but have more economic freedom, right? And so for me, I think that's a lesson that we should take as Bitcoiners, because yes, the Bitcoin volatility is treacherous, but there's a price to pay for economic freedom, right? And it depends on what you want over the long term and what you want to see over the long term. The simplest solution has volatility, but once you go for the stability of the purchasing power price, which is also didn't exist if you go look at the historic gold prices, then you introduce other factors that would leave you doing a lot of work, but not getting paid the fair price for that. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you have Ghana right now, 40% inflation, right? It's crazy, right? But in another hand, we have guys like you creating like something super innovative. Nobody in the Western thought about it, you know? So I think actually you guys have a lot to teach us in the Western. Us now because I'm from Brazil, but the Western about it, right? I don't know, Hermann, if you have anything that you want to add, like you think that Africa can teach the world about Bitcoin and innovation.
Yeah, 100%. I'm very bullish on Bitcoin in Africa. I think there's going to be an explosion of adoption, and I say that because we need it. I come personally. I come from a relatively privileged position in South Africa, and it's because I'm aware of that I've been involved in the community I've been involved in for the last 10 years. I'm trying to give something back, and this project has been an eye-opener for me on a personal level, because for years I've been talking to people about Bitcoin on an ideological level. So I've been trying to orange pill them, talking about the monetary qualities, the scarcity, the this, the that. And when I started this project, that was for the first time that I witnessed, despite being obsessed with Bitcoin for years, it was the first time I witnessed people adopt it because it's the better option. I never had much success trying to convince people in my own social circles about Bitcoin. I've been talking about it for years, and I've probably converted 1 or 2 people. Whereas within a year, in a community where people really need it because it's the best option available to them, they've adopted it for practical reasons. And I think that's the case across a lot of Africa, and that's why I'm so bullish on Bitcoin in Africa. it's just a matter of time, and it's just a matter of people like this guy building the tools that people need to adopt it. You know, what he's done with Bitcoin over USSD, it's incredible. I was blown away when I saw it the first time, and it's tools like that that's going to enable people to adopt it more easily. And once that becomes widespread enough, I think there's going to be an explosion.
And I want to just, I know we are running almost short and almost finishing this panel, but I want you, Bernard, talk about Kala, because I think this project is incredible, and it's the sign that how you guys are envisioning the future of Bitcoin and development in Africa. Can you talk about it a little bit for us?
Yeah, so Kala is a project a couple of friends and I started last year with the support of Paxful and the Human Rights Foundation to train Bitcoin developers in Africa. Like we've spoken about, you know, a lot of the problems, right? But if there's no one to build the solutions, then we're going to remain where we are today. The problem for us back then was it was just a few of us, right? So I could count how many people who knew how to build on Bitcoin to speak to. But I see a lot of talented developers, a lot of people who face these problems every day, but they don't know about Bitcoin, they don't understand it. Or in some cases, they feel like, oh, if you're going to learn how to build on Bitcoin, you have to, you know, go through some magical stuff before it happens, right? But this was something I just learned out of curiosity, and I thought, damn, I'm not even the top 10 or top 1 million smartest guys on the continent, so definitely this is more about exposure than the smarts, right? So we decided to come together to, you know, say, look, let's expose more developers, more young people to think more as builders, because to build for Bitcoin in Africa, you sort of need a different, an entirely different perspective to it, right? So a company like Coinbase could just come to Africa and it's just going to be like, bro, like, what are you doing, right? Because obviously no one will allow them open a bank account, right? So how are you going to solve the problem? It's totally different. It requires a totally different, you know, way of thinking about building solutions. And I'm not everywhere in Africa, so I can't obviously build the best solutions. When I tweeted about USSD was because I met, you know, a woman in the market, and, you know, we're just gisting, and she was asking me what I do, and I spoke about Bitcoin. And she was like, oh, some people have been speaking to her about crypto, but all of them were trying to ask her to buy this or that. They were promising her returns, but I'm the only person who explained it to her without even asking her to buy. Like, I just educated her. So how can she do it? And she just has this feature phone. She doesn't have a smartphone. And, you know, I just went out and I tweeted, hey, I want someone to put USSD on Lightning. And like 2 weeks later, this guy pulls it off, right? So, like, it's like we need, if we had like 1,000 of us who could build on Bitcoin and the Lightning Network, then we are truly on a path to, you know, gaining independence.
Thank you. Unfortunately, we are like really running out of time here. Thank you so much, guys, for this panel. And I recommend you guys keep the eyes on these guys here, because they have a lot to teach us what's coming from the future, about what's coming from the future. Thank you.
Life, don't let it leave you.